Have you ever felt like the universe was messing with you just for the hell of it? Just to get a good laugh at your expense? Yeah, that was exactly my vibe 30 seconds before I tore some guy's throat out in a filthy alley behind a third-rate bar at the edge of the city. Don't look at me like that. I had a reason. A good one. And look, maybe I'm not exactly the hero of this story, but trust me, that asshole wasn't either. It all started with a scent, but not just any scent. The kind that crawls up your spine, slides across your skin, and grabs your soul with invisible claws. Warm honey, blood, fear, lust. I was hunting, standard night, minding my own damn business, and then boom, her scent hit me like a goddamn runaway train. I followed the trail, because apparently I have zero self-control, and I found her, cornered by some drunk prick who thought no meant yes. His hand on her neck, her eyes green wide, full of fury. She wasn't begging, wasn't crying. She was fighting. Step away or die. Your choice. The guy laughed. Laughed. Idiot. So I did what any decent bloodsucker would do. I ripped him apart. Quick, messy, final. His blood tasted like cheap whiskey and cowardice. She screamed, of course. Humans always scream. But even stumbling back, eyes locked on me, she didn't run. Didn't faint. Her lips parted, shock, maybe, but no fear. That caught me off guard. People run from monsters. She stared. What the hell are you? Not your savior, sweetheart. Just the guy who kept you from becoming ground meat. And that's where things got complicated. I should have left, wiped her memory, and walked away. Wanted to. But the bond, the one I didn't even know was already forming, was tightening around my neck like a fucking noose. Her scent, her voice, the fire in her eyes. It poked something buried deep inside me. Something old. Possessive. So yeah, I took her. Not the way you're thinking. Not yet. I carried her, kicking and cursing, to my car. Black, leather interior, New York plates. Cold. Obviously. Real subtle. She landed 2 kicks. Spat on me once. I liked that. Called me a psychopath. I told her she had no idea. Then I took her to my mansion, because I'm an arrogant bastard who thinks kidnapping is totally justifiable when the alternative is letting her die, or worse. My home was not like those cliché movie mansions, all modern and minimalist with giant windows. She looked around like I dragged her into some architect's wet dream. I'm your nightmare, sweetheart, I almost said. But I didn't. Not yet. You can't just kidnap someone. You think I can't or I shouldn't. Big difference. She slapped me. Hard. My cheek stung. I laughed low and slow. Damn, she had fire. That slap was the match that lit the powder keg. My hunger, always there, quiet, became a fucking inferno. Her neck, her pulse. My fangs ached. She was shouting something, but all I could hear was her heartbeat, the invitation I couldn't refuse. I pinned her to the wall. Not hard. Yet, and she gasped, punching my chest. I leaned in, my lips grazing her ear. Want honesty? I'm starving, and you are addictive. She froze. Her breath hitched. The tension between us. Hell, you could cut it with a blade. She hated me. Wanted me. I felt it, even before the bond locked tight. I sank my fangs into her neck. Her blood fuck. It was light, fire, pain and pleasure. Sin made liquid. She moaned, rough, strangled, and her hands, stubborn, grabbed at me like she couldn't decide whether to pull me closer or shove me away. I drank, but not too much. Just enough to seal the bond. Enough to claim her. She trembled in my arms, eyes closing, then snapping open again, wild. Panic, fury, and something else, connection. The bond boiled between us, electricity, shared feelings. She could feel me now. My hunger, my obsession, my fucked up desire. What the hell did you do to me? Welcome to the mess that is my head, pet. That's when it hit her, my emotions, my lust, my rage, now hers too. Her knees gave out. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her, like I destroyed something sacred. Maybe I had, but she was mine, and I wasn't letting her go. She staggered, overwhelmed, and I caught her. Both of us trapped in the chaos of the bond. Her breath faltered, her voice a whisper. Get out of my head. Too late, love. You let me in. I watched her, this fiery enigma named Serafina, pacing the confines of her new prison, a lavish room in my mansion. Her defiance was intoxicating, a rare spice in my otherwise monotonous existence. She had tried to escape once already, a futile attempt that ended with her pressed against the cold stone walls, my breath mingling with hers as I whispered promises of consequences. Yet, her spirit remained unbroken. Do you honestly think you can keep me here forever? She spat, her green eyes blazing with fury. I leaned against the doorframe, a smirk playing on my lips. Forever is a long time, darling. But for now, let's just say you're my guest. Guest? She laughed bitterly. Guests are free to leave. Semantics, I shrugged. Call it what you will. She lunged at me then, fists flying, a wildcat in human form. I caught her wrists effortlessly, pulling her close. The scent of her blood, rich and tantalizing, stirred something primal within me. Let me go, she demanded, each word laced with venom. I tightened my grip, leaning in to whisper against her ear. Careful, Sarah. You might enjoy what happens if I don't. Her breath hitched, a delicious sound that sent a thrill through me. But before I could revel in it, she kneed me hard in the groin. Pain exploded, and I released her instinctively, cursing under my breath. Fuck. She darted toward the door, but I recovered quickly, grabbing her ankle and pulling her back. She fell onto the plush carpet with a grunt, and I was on her in an instant, pinning her beneath me. Enough games, I growled, my patience wearing thin. Her chest heaved, eyes wide but unyielding. Do your worst, vampire. A dark chuckle escaped me. Oh, I intend to. I bound her wrists above her head with a silk tie, the contrast of the soft fabric against her skin a cruel irony. She struggled, testing the bonds, but they held firm. Is this how you get your kicks? She taunted, tying up women who won't submit willingly. I traced a finger down her neck, feeling the rapid pulse beneath. Only the ones who make it interesting. Her defiance wavered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. I leaned in, brushing my lips against her collarbone, savoring the warmth of her skin. Tell me to stop, I murmured, my voice a husky whisper. And I will. She swallowed hard, her resolve crumbling. Stop. I froze, the words slicing through the haze of desire. The bond compelled me to obey, and I released her, rolling onto my back beside her. Frustration gnawed at me, but beneath it lay a grudging respect. You're playing a dangerous game, I said, staring up at the ornate ceiling. She turned her head to look at me, confusion and curiosity mingling in her gaze. Why did you stop? Because you told me to, I replied simply. Silence stretched between us, thick with unspoken questions. Finally, she broke it. What are you? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. A monster. A predator. Take your pick. She frowned, propping herself up on one elbow. That's not an answer. I met her gaze, the weight of centuries pressing down on me. I'm a vampire, Sarah, and you're bound to me now, whether you like it or not. Her eyes widened, realization dawning. The blood that night. Yes, I confirmed. You drank from me, and now our fates are intertwined. She recoiled, horror etched on her features. No, there has to be a way to break it. I grabbed her arm, pulling her back to face me. Don't even think about it, I warned, my voice low and dangerous. If you sever the bond, it will kill me. She stared at me, shock rendering her speechless. I released her, turning away to hide the vulnerability I despised. Why should I care? She whispered, more to herself than to me. I had no answer for her. In truth, I wasn't sure I wanted her to care. But the thought of losing her, of returning to the endless void of my existence without her light, was unbearable. Get some rest, I said gruffly, rising to my feet. We'll talk more in the morning. As I left the room, closing the door behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that the chains binding us were tightening, and I wasn't sure which of us was the prisoner anymore. I stood in the grand hall, shadows dancing around me as the firelight flickered. Sarah paced before me, her eyes blazing with a mix of fury and something else, something that mirrored the storm within me. "Why did you do it, Kale?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Why bind me to you?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Because I couldn't bear the thought of losing you." She stopped, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You arrogant bastard," she whispered. "You took away my choice." I stepped closer, the pull between us palpable. "I know," I admitted, my voice raw, "and I regret it every damn day." Her eyes softened, but she shook her head. "I can't trust you, Kale. Not after everything." I reached out, my fingers brushing her cheek. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "Let me prove it to you," I murmured. "Let me show you that I can be the man you deserve." She searched my eyes, her breath hitching. "And how do you plan to do that?" I leaned in, my lips hovering over hers. "By giving you back your freedom," I whispered. "By breaking the bond." Her eyes widened, tears pooling. "You do that? For me?" I nodded, my heart clenching. "For you, I'd do anything." She closed the distance between us, her lips crashing onto mine. The kiss was desperate, filled with all the words we couldn't say. I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her flush against me, feeling her warmth seep into my cold skin. We broke apart, panting. She rested her forehead against mine. "I hate you," she murmured, but her tone lacked conviction. "I know," I replied, a small smile tugging at my lips. "But I can live with that." She laughed softly, the sound like music to my ears. "You're insufferable." "And you're irresistible," I countered, capturing her lips once more. As we tumbled onto the nearby chaise, our hands explored familiar territory, each touch igniting the fire between us. This time, there were no bonds, no commands, just us, raw and real. Hours later, as dawn approached, she lay in my arms, tracing patterns on my chest. "What now?" she asked softly. I kissed the top of her head. "Now, we face whatever comes next. Together." She looked up at me, her eyes shining with determination. "Together," she echoed. In that moment, I knew that love had triumphed over dominance, and we were bound not by blood, but by choice. Months had passed since that fateful night. Sarah stood beside me, her presence a beacon of strength and grace. No longer my captive, she was my equal, my partner, my queen. We ruled together, our bond unbreakable, forged in the fires of passion and tempered by trust. As I look back on our journey, I can't help but smile at the irony. I had chained her to my bite, but in the end, she was the one who owned me, forever. And to you, dear reader, take this as a cautionary tale. Be careful who you bind, for they might just become the master of your heart.